Hello, hello, hello. It is getting dark now, but I wanted to make a video and I wanted to say that every living being, you and all animals, need love. Okay, it's very, very important. And I just did a little love meditation before I started the video, and what comes to my mind immediately is my horse, my unicorn horse, the real horse on the meadow. And when I'm there with him, we find peace of mind, because we love each other, we feel at home with each other. Where he is, I'm at home, and vice versa. And I wish I could take him home, but I can't, because he's not in my legal custody, to word it correctly, because we don't own an animal. Okay, so I'm not going to say owner or ownership. He is my horse because he is my friend, but I don't have legal custody over him, and that's very sad. But when I go over to him, and tomorrow we're going over to see him, then when I'm standing there next to the fence, then we have this peace in that moment for, I don't know, 20 minutes before Paul gets antsy and wants to leave. I could stay there all night long. I just want to be with my horse. I need an animal real desperately. I can't live without an animal. When I have an animal, I'm at home. I feel fulfilled as a mother. And it's lovely and it's wonderful. Right now we're going to be moving. It's not even that practical right now to adopt a dog, and they won't give us a dog anyway. So I just hope that I just pray to the blue God that these beautiful, innocent beings find a loving home. Okay, that's all I want. That's all I want. That every animal is safe. That's all I want. That's my biggest wish in my life. I pray to the blue God every night, thinking about the suffering animals out there. See the cases when I signed petition. So much suffering in the world. It's unspeakable. It's infinitely sad. I often cry And sometimes I howl. When I see the suffering. The puppy dog case in 2012 threw me over the edge. There was one, or the biggest thing that year that caused me a nervous breakdown. But there were other things too. There were too many things happening with the suffering. They started to round up wild horses under Salazar, who has vested interest in the government. And Barack Obama gave him full legislation over Department of Agriculture. That's extreme corruption. Okay. And he ordered the wild horses to be rounded up and sold and many of them were sold to the meat markets, to slaughter facilities. Many of them. The worst part about that was that I saw photos and I saw video footage of the terror in those wild horses. They didn't understand what was going on. Suddenly, they from total freedom to incarceration that caused them unimaginable suffering and panic. Same with the dolphins in Taiji. Same panic. Okay. That's why I'm an animal rights activist, because I feel with them and for them. And I do whatever I can to inform people about this and to sign petitions. And you can do the same thing, Everyone can help with that. Everyone should help with that. It is your responsibility too. It's every single human's responsibility what happens at the hands of humans. Okay. We have to say something. We have to speak out. We have to become political. We have to write letters. Okay. That's what we have to do. That's love. And a lot of, every single Buddhist knows that, and also Hindus knows that when you give love like that, you feel love. You have the love in that moment. Okay. When I love the horse, I have love. Because I feel love. And it feels good. And I want to help him. I put clay on his nose to help him heal the herpes. He has some herpes sores on his nose, which makes me worry. He doesn't have enough love in his life. He doesn't. I don't know how often he sees the other horse. Sometimes the other horse is on the other end of the meadow, and he doesn't get to touch the other horse's nose. Sometimes they stand there together and have their heads together like that. They desperately need that. They need to stand together, touching each other's bodies. Okay. You've seen this in my videos. He desperately needs that touch. Okay. He rubs his head on my body because he needs that touch. They need as much touch and grooming as possible. And every one of us needs as much touch, physical touch, skin touch, and petting and grooming and loving, having someone there who feels compassion for you. I'm not talking about romantic necessarily. That's an extra that can happen too. But please do that on the foundation of real friendship and compassion. Do that for yourself and for the other person. Don't view women as your sex slaves. That's not love. Okay. That's a very neurotic fantasy. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's not kindness. Love and kindness as you view your girlfriends as another sentient, precious living being. Okay. Who needs love, compassion, kindness, gentleness. Who needs someone to listen and understand, not judge. I was sitting off and on either one of these couches today and looking out of the balcony door into the trees. And there are always many different things going through my mind. I was thinking about how it must be like to find a boyfriend who really, really loves me. How amazing that must be. And everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves a partner or companion who loves them unconditionally. It becomes very difficult for the humans in general. Very, very difficult because of their childhood trauma. Very difficult. Everything is being viewed through the lens of childhood pain. Okay, everything is being interpreted through that lens. They can't bypass that lens. It would be nice if they could sit down and take that lens off, take those glasses off, those distortion glasses, take them off and view the other person from the sky perspective, okay? Instead of viewing the other person through insinuations and interpretations from their own pain. Okay? But what's required for that is the inwardness meditation process. That's very, very important to do that. Breathe through the abdomen. Look into the trees if you can, or into the clouds, to the sky. Today there are no clouds, just blue sky. And the sun is now at the horizon, still shining from there to there. Shining against the young birch tree. And the birch trees, they have these kind of almost like large confetti leaves that make these really, really lovely sounds in the wind. Beautiful. Those are sounds that are very, very healing. That will really relax your mind completely. It's wonderful. And when you sit down and you settle your thoughts, then you realize this has all been feverish mental illness stuff going on. And we have to remember, I can settle that. Okay. I have to practice this all the time. Practice, 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 practice. It's about practicing this over and over again. Never stop. Okay. It gets better after a while. It gets much better. And then looking at it from the sky perspective. We need boyfriends. We need partners, we need companions, we need lovers. We need real friends, okay? Real friends. Someone who says, I see you. I see how you're struggling with this. And I don't judge you. I don't judge also anyone. I don't even judge a drug addict. I see it. I see where you're coming from. Just know that continuing with the drug addiction is a slow suicide. Just know that. And it's a painful way to go. Very painful and horrible. And it makes other living beings around you suffer as well. It's not good. Love yourself and quit it all right now. Right now. You have nothing to lose. You have life to gain. Life and health and love and new perspectives. It means you also have to quit the people that you're hanging out with, because they're not helping you. If you are suffering, if you are acting out badly, then that means you are quite miserable. You're quite in a bad place and surrounded by the wrong people. Okay. I had to do that. Very often that helps the other people as well. You know, when I have a crush on someone, or I have some kind of hope attached to someone, it takes me a long time until I finally say, this is enough now. You have abused me enough. Okay, I'm moving on with my life. It's better to do that sooner than later. Always. But better later than never. If people are being abusive for whatever, they have their own pain, but that's not an excuse to be abusive to someone. If you're being abused, get out. It doesn't matter who that is. Could be your parents. Get out. Do everything you can to get out. And please, bring your animals with you when you leave. Many people are dangerous and retaliate against you, letting it out on innocent beings. This happens all the time. Okay. Don't allow that to happen. Take your animals with you. It's a very important message. Don't think that because that's your father or your mother that they're on some kind of pedestal. I know someone who said in his culture, his parents are like mini gods. I'm not making fun of you, it's just very irritating. No, they are not gods. Mini or macro gods, they are not gods. Okay. They are very confused. Humans like every other human. Most humans are very confused. Maybe you're lucky and you have an amazing mother. Okay. So that happens sometimes. Okay. But no. The average family has the mother in most cultures is kind of muted and is what they call an enabler. Okay. Muted and enabling the father to do violent acts. That's not a god. Okay. That's not love. That's what Albert Einstein declared equally guilty of a crime. When you enable, when you cater to a perpetrator or you say nothing, you become guilty of that crime as well. That's why in Germany, by law, you have to help someone in need of help. Not in the United States, which is typical for this extreme capitalism, okay, which doesn't work at all. You have to have some sort of socialized market system. Okay. It has to be somewhat socialized. There are certain things that have to be given, okay, like school and healthcare. And help and protection. Those are necessities, okay? And they should be universally funded by everyone. and I believe that it should be funded with 10 or 15% sales tax on everything, just everything. And that's a one-time charge, not a rent on your own private property. And that would not sit so well with those people that do tax evasions, because then they couldn't loop out of it. And that's why they're against it. And that's why we have this unimaginably convoluted taxation system. David Foster Wallace, he studied that just to write a book about it, because he thought it is so incredibly hideous. You can read about it. The Pale King. And he tells the story of how incredibly, insanely, mentally ill all of those people are that are studying the taxation system and become tax consultants and tax investigators. Very well observed. My favorite figure is Leonard Stechik. It's my favorite figure in that book, The Pale King. Leonard Stechik. Book starts with his childhood. It's incredibly hideous. And then he is found later on as a tax consultant. It says on the door, Leonard Stechik, tax consultant, come on in. I'll help you through this. How people avoided him when he was helping other people. It's just it's an observation from David Foster Wallace in his own life. That's what he observed. And he thought it's hideous, so he had to write it down. He had to write about it. Not so much as an accusation, but more like, let's take a look. Let's look at it. Let's zoom in on it. That's what that book is about. Let's zoom in and let's also look at it from the sky perspective. Let's see the individual players, what is their story, and let's figure out how we can solve these problems with mental illness and bad behavior among people and neurotic behavior, like extremely neurotic behavior. How do we fix that? I highly recommend to people to sit down in meditation, breathe, and just don't go into resistance towards anything. Just let it churn through your mind. Whatever comes up, there could be horrible things coming up. Let it churn through. It wants to say something to you. It wants to say, hey, thanks for letting me finally talk. The inner child, the ego, the fear, the pain, the hungry ghost inside of you, the despair, the neediness. It wants to talk. Let it talk. Cry with it. That's healing. That's the healing process. That's the inwardness meditation process. And if the ego can be laid to rest for a moment, then you're entering into the ego dissolution funnel. when you can allow yourself to not act out, to not do narcissistic repair just for an hour. Okay, don't do it. Don't do the narcissistic repair. This constant retaliation and whatever. The ego always wants to look good to other people. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't do any of that. For an hour, sit down. And if someone ridicules you, that's okay. It's their problem, not your problem. Go through this ego dissolution funnel. And that's the healing process. Okay, that's the inwardness process. And remind yourself during the day when emotions come up, this is old trauma. Okay, I'm viewing this person now through the lens of my old trauma. Is that really the truth? Yeah, you ask yourself. And you will realize, if you meditate on it, that it is your past trauma, it's your ego wanting to defend you, protect you, but it's irrational, it's being irrational, okay? So you don't give in to it. You sit there and you just look at it for what it is. And you realize, okay, I'm not going to do the avoidance now with this. I know that if I give into that avoidance now, then it will escalate, it will get worse. Or if I, and that's what I do in my case, in my situation. I have avoidance issues, or too much hand washing, or too much cleaning of stuff. Sit down. Don't act it out. Let it rest for a couple of hours. Then wash it. So that's how we gradually work our way through. Okay, you guys take care. Bye-bye.